I stood in our empty garage, staring at the oil stain where Frank's 1967 Mustang had sat for 42 years. My hands shook as I dialed Derek's number. When he answered, his voice was cold. "I sold it, Mom. Courtney wanted Paris for our anniversary. The car was just collecting dust anyway. Just collecting dust. 15 years Frank spent restoring that car, working every weekend until the cancer took him 6 months ago. Get over it," Derek added before hanging up. Then my phone rang. The dealership owner. His voice was urgent. "Ma'am, you need to come now." My fingers trembled so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. The 20-minute drive to Classic Motors felt like an eternity, each mile weighted with memories I couldn't shake. I kept seeing Frank in our garage, his reading glasses perched on his nose, that patient smile on his face as he worked. Saturday mornings were sacred. I'd bring him coffee in his favorite blue mug, watch him polish chrome until it gleamed like mirrors. Derek used to be right there beside him, 7 years old, handing his father wrenches, listening to Frank explain the difference between torque and horsepower. When had my son become someone I didn't recognize? The dealership sat on Route 9, a low brick building with cars lined up outside like soldiers. I pulled into the lot, my Honda looking shabby next to the gleaming classics on display. A bell chimed as I pushed through the glass door. "Mrs. Patterson?" A man emerged from the back office, wiping his hands on a rag. He was maybe late 50s, with weathered skin that spoke of years spent under car hoods and eyes that crinkled kindly at the corners. "I'm Raymond Cooper. I own this place. Thank you for coming so quickly. You said something about my husband's car?" My voice cracked. I hated how weak I sounded. Raymond's expression softened with something like pity. "Yes, ma'am. Your son brought the Mustang in yesterday afternoon. Seemed in a real hurry, needed the money fast. I paid him $48,000 for it. Beautiful machine, absolutely pristine condition. 48,000. The room tilted slightly. That was real money. Enough for a trip to Paris and then some. Enough that Derek didn't think twice about selling away his father's legacy, his mother's memories. "I need to show you something," Raymond said gently. "Would you come with me?" I followed him through the showroom into the garage bay. And there it was. Frank's Mustang, cherry red paint catching the fluorescent lights, chrome bumpers reflecting my stunned face. The sight of it hit me like a physical blow. I reached out, touched the smooth hood, still cool under my palm. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "Your husband did incredible work," Raymond said. "But Mrs. Patterson, that's not why I called you. When I was doing my standard inspection, checking the trunk, spare tire, all that, I found something unusual." He walked to the back of the car and opened the trunk. Inside, beneath where the spare tire had been, I could see fresh tool marks on the metal. There was a locked document box welded to the inside of the trunk, Raymond explained. "Hidden real well. Your husband knew what he was doing. I had to cut the lock to open it. I hope that was okay. But the circumstances seemed urgent." He lifted a metal box from his workbench. My heart hammered against my ribs. "It's addressed to you." Inside the box lay a thick manila envelope with my fern, written across the front in Frank's careful handwriting. I'd know that writing anywhere. Beside it sat a small USB drive, a velvet jewelry box, and several official-looking documents. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Frank's letter was 3 pages long, and I had to sit down on Raymond's rolling stool to read it. "My dearest Fern," it began, "if you're reading this, I'm gone, and something has happened with Derek and the car. I pray I'm wrong about our son, but I've learned things these past months that break my heart." The letter went on. Frank explained he'd been documenting Derek's behavior, that he suspected our son of trying to manipulate him during his illness. He wrote about hidden cameras, recorded conversations, evidence of theft. He apologized for not telling me sooner, for hoping he was wrong. "There's more," Raymond said quietly. "The USB drive has video files, and those documents, they're legal papers. The car's title is in a living trust. Your name is on it as sole beneficiary. Mrs. Patterson, your son had no legal right to sell this car." The room spun. I gripped the edge of the workbench. "Would you like to see the videos?" Raymond asked. "I have a computer in my office." I nodded, unable to speak. The first video file was dated 9 months earlier. The camera angle showed our living room from a high shelf. Frank must have hidden it there. In the video, Derek sat beside Frank's recliner. My husband looked so frail, his skin gray, oxygen tubes in his nose. Derek was holding papers, talking in that smooth voice he uses when he wants something. "Dad, you need to sign these. It's just estate planning stuff. Making sure Mom's taken care of if anything happens. Power of attorney. Nothing complicated." Frank's hand shook as he reached for the papers. "Why does Fern need this now?" "Because you're sick, Dad. We need to be prepared. It's responsible. Mom doesn't understand financial stuff. You know how she is." I watched my dying husband squint at the papers, confusion on his face. "This doesn't look right, Derek. This says you'd have access to our accounts. I thought you said this was for your mother." "It is, Dad. That's how it works. I manage things for her, trust me." Frank's expression changed then. Something cleared in his eyes. He pulled the papers back. "I need to talk to my lawyer first." Derek's face went hard. "Fine. But don't wait too long. We both know you don't have that kind of time." The video ended. I sat staring at the blank screen, tears streaming down my face. My son had tried to steal from his dying father. "There are more videos," Raymond said softly. "Do you want me to give you privacy?" "No," I said. "Please stay." We watched 3 more. Each one showed Derek coming to the house when I was at work, taking things. My grandmother's ruby ring from my jewelry box, Frank's silver coin collection, candlesticks that had been my mother's. And Frank had filmed it all, too weak to stop it, documenting everything with methodical determination. In the velvet box was my grandmother's ring, the one I'd thought lost 3 years ago. Frank had somehow gotten it back without telling me. "Your husband loved you very much," Raymond said. I couldn't stop crying. He was protecting me even when he was dying. Raymond made coffee while I composed myself. He was a kind man, this stranger who'd become part of my husband's final plan. We sat in his cluttered office, surrounded by parts catalogs and fading NASCAR posters. "What do I do now?" I asked. "That's up to you, Mrs. Patterson. But legally, that car belongs to you. The sale Derek made isn't valid. I'm happy to hold on to it here until you sort this out. I won't process the paperwork or cash his check." "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you so much." I drove home with the metal box beside me on the passenger seat. Frank's evidence of our son's betrayal, contained in metal and plastic and video files. The garage was still empty when I pulled in. I sat in my car for a long time, watching the sun set through the windshield, and wondered how I'd find the strength to face what came next. I hadn't even made it into the house before I saw Derek's truck in my driveway. He and Courtney were waiting by the front door, and the expressions on their faces told me they already knew I'd been to the dealership. "Mom." Derek's voice was tight, controlled. "We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you." I fumbled with my keys, trying to get past them. Courtney stepped in front of me. She was 32, blonde, always dressed like she was heading to a country club. Right now her face was twisted with anger. You went to that dealership and interfered with our business. That car sale was legal." "No, it wasn't. I finally got my key in the lock. Frank put the car in a trust. Derek had no right to sell it." "That's ridiculous," Derek snapped. "Dad never told me about any trust." I turned to face my son. He was 35 years old, tall like his father had been, but where Frank's eyes had been warm and honest, Derek's were cold. When had that happened? When had I lost him? "I saw the videos, Derek." His face went pale. "What videos?" "The ones your father recorded. Of you trying to get him to sign over power of attorney. Of you stealing from our house." I pushed open the door. "You can leave now." Derek grabbed my arm. Not hard, but firm enough to stop me. "You don't understand." Dad was confused. The medications made him paranoid. He didn't know what he was doing. "Let go of me." "We already bought the plane tickets." Courtney's voice rose to a shriek. "First class to Paris, non-refundable. The hotel is booked. Do you have any idea how much we spent?" "That's not my problem." "Yes, it is." Derek's control finally cracked. "That money is ours. Dad would have wanted us to have it. He was always talking about how hard I work, how I deserve success. You're just a bitter old woman clinging to junk." The words hit like slaps. I yanked my arm free. "Get off my property. Both of you." "Fine." Derek's voice dropped to something quiet and dangerous. "But if you push this, Mom, if you try to take that car back or report any of this, you'll never see Emma and Lily again. I mean it. We'll move. We'll change our numbers. Your grandchildren will forget you even exist." The twins, 4 years old, bright-eyed little girls with Frank's smile. I saw them maybe once a month now, down from the weekly visits we'd had before Frank got sick. Derek had been slowly cutting me off from them for months. "You wouldn't, but I knew he would," Courtney smirked. "Try us. We're their parents. We decide who they see." They left, Derek's truck spraying gravel as he peeled out. I stood in my doorway, shaking, feeling like I might collapse. Inside, I locked the door and sat at the kitchen table with Frank's documents spread in front of me. The trust papers were clear and legal. Frank had set everything up 3 months before he died, during a brief period when he'd felt stronger. He'd gone to the lawyer alone, I realized, probably suspecting even then what Derek was planning. I called Margaret Walsh, my attorney. She'd handled our wills years ago. She agreed to see me the next morning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept watching Frank's videos, studying my son's face, looking for the boy who used to help his father in the garage. Where had that child gone? When had greed replaced love? At 2 a.m, I made myself stop. There were more video files I hadn't watched yet. I needed to be strong for whatever else Frank had documented. Margaret's office was in a converted Victorian house downtown. She was 60, sharp as a tack, with gray hair she wore in a neat bun. She reviewed Frank's documents with reading glasses perched on her nose. "This trust is airtight," she finally said. "Frank knew exactly what he was doing. The car belongs to you, period. Derek's sale is void." Relief flooded through me. "So I can get it back?" "Yes, but there are complications." Margaret leaned back in her chair. "Derek could fight this in court. He could claim Frank was mentally incompetent when he created the trust that the cancer medications impaired his judgment. It would be a long, expensive legal battle. But the videos prove Frank was competent. They prove Derek was trying to manipulate him. The videos help, absolutely. But family law is messy, Fern. Derek could drag this through the courts for years. And I have to be honest with you about costs. A legal battle like this could run $30,000 or more in attorney fees. Do you have that kind of money?" My teacher's pension was comfortable but modest, $1,900 a month. Frank had left me the house free and clear, and maybe $70,000 in savings. $30,000 was real money. I don't know, I admitted. There's something else, Margaret said gently. If Derek files countersuits, claiming Frank was incompetent, that could tie up Frank's entire estate. The house, the savings, everything could be frozen until it's resolved. And if Derek succeeds in proving incompetency, the trust could be invalidated entirely. I felt sick. So even though Frank tried to protect me, Derek could still win? Possibly. I'm sorry, Fern. I wish I had better news. I drove home feeling defeated. I'd thought finding Frank's evidence would solve everything. Instead, I discovered I couldn't afford to fight. That evening, I tried calling Derek. Maybe we could find a compromise, some way to resolve this without courts and lawyers. I'd offer him $10,000, a gift if he'd just walk away and let me keep the car and Frank's memory intact. He didn't answer. 3 calls went straight to voicemail. The next day, a process server appeared at my door. Derek was suing me. The papers claimed Frank had been mentally incompetent, that the trust was invalid, and that as Frank's only child, Derek was entitled to 50% of everything: the house, the savings, all of it. He wanted half of everything I had. I called Margaret in tears. She'd already received her copy of the lawsuit. I was afraid of this, she said. Derek's playing hardball. His lawyer is Victor Brennan, known for aggressive tactics. What do I do? We fight. But Fern, it's going to get ugly. She had no idea how right she was. Within a week, I started noticing the whispers. At church, conversations would stop when I entered a room. Linda Morrison, who'd been my friend for 20 years, gave me a tight smile in the grocery store and hurried away. At the library, where I volunteered every Tuesday, the other volunteers seemed distant. Then Carol Henderson pulled me aside after services on Sunday. "Fern, honey, we're all worried about you." Carol's face was full of concern. "Derek came to Bible study last week. He said you've been having memory problems, that you're getting confused about things. That's not true. He showed us pictures of your house. Said you've been letting things go, not taking care of yourself." Carol squeezed my hand. "There's no shame in getting older, sweetheart. Maybe you should think about someplace where there's help available. My mother-in-law is at Meadowbrook Assisted Living, and she loves it there." I pulled my hand away. Derek is lying. He's trying to make me look incompetent so he can win a lawsuit. Carol's expression shifted to pity. "Oh, honey, do you hear how that sounds? I know losing Frank was hard, but paranoia is a sign that maybe you need more support." I left church early, fighting tears. Derek was poisoning my reputation, turning my friends against me. And it was working. The campaign continued. Over the next 2 weeks, I heard from 3 different people that Derek was concerned about me, that I'd become difficult and accusatory, that I was showing signs of decline. Margaret warned me this was a deliberate strategy. He's building a narrative. If he can convince people you're incompetent, it strengthens his court case. Meanwhile, Raymond called with bad news. My business partner saw the Mustang's value. He wants to complete the purchase regardless of the legal dispute. If we don't resolve this in 30 days, we'll have to sell the car at auction to recover our costs. 30 days. The deadline felt like a noose tightening. The financial pressure mounted. Margaret estimated my legal bills would hit $25,000 before we even got to trial. Derek's lawyer was filing motion after motion, each one costing me money to respond to. Then, Adult Protective Services showed up at my door. The social worker was a tired-looking woman named Helen Briggs. She held a clipboard and wore an apologetic expression. Mrs. Patterson, we received a report that you might be experiencing self-neglect or cognitive decline. I need to do a wellness check. Who reported me? But I already knew. The reports are anonymous. May I come in? I had no choice. Helen walked through my house, noting everything on her forms. The dishes in the sink from breakfast, the pile of laundry on the couch, the mail stacked on the kitchen table. I'm not neglecting myself, I said. I'm distracted because my son is suing me. I understand you're going through a difficult time. Helen's voice was professionally neutral. Can you tell me what day it is? Who's the president? She asked me to name the current date, spell words backward, remember a list of items, tests to determine if I was mentally competent. I answered everything correctly, but I could see Helen making notes. Your home is safe, and you seem oriented, Helen finally said. But Mrs. Patterson, I do have concerns about your stress level. Do you have support? Family nearby? My son is the one who reported me. He's trying to have me declared incompetent. Helen's expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. She'd heard this before, probably dealt with family disputes disguised as elder care concerns. I'll file my report. You should be fine, but I'd recommend seeing your doctor for a cognitive evaluation. It would help document your capacity. After she left, I sat at Frank's desk and cried. Derek had backed me into a corner. Even if I won the legal battle, my reputation in town was destroyed. My friends doubted me. My own son was systematically dismantling my life. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Drop everything. Sign the car over to me. Give me $25,000 from Dad's life insurance. Do this, and I'll drop the lawsuit. You have 48 hours. Otherwise, I'll have you declared unfit and take it all. I stared at the message until the screen went dark. $25,000. The car. My dignity. Or risk losing everything in court, including the house Frank and I had lived in for 40 years. I wanted to call him, scream at him, demand to know what had happened to my son, but I knew it wouldn't matter. The Derek I'd raised was gone. In his place was a stranger who saw his own mother as nothing more than an obstacle between him and money. Margaret called it extortion. Don't respond to that text. We're documenting everything for the judge. But documentation didn't ease the crushing weight in my chest. It didn't bring back my friends or my reputation. It didn't let me see my grandchildren. I pulled out Frank's USB drive again. There were more videos I hadn't watched. Maybe somewhere in Frank's documentation was an answer. A way out of this nightmare that didn't end with me losing everything or giving Derek exactly what he wanted. The next video was time-stamped 3 months before Frank died. The camera angle showed our living room again, but this time it was pointed at the window. The sound was muffled, but clear enough. Derek and Courtney's voices, arguing in the driveway. They must not have realized Frank had positioned a camera there. When he finally dies, we'll get everything. That was Courtney's voice. His mom won't know what hit her. We need that money now. Derek sounded desperate. We've already borrowed so much against the house. How much? $70,000. If we don't get the inheritance soon, we'll lose everything. Can't you forge his signature? Speed things up? A pause. Then Derek, I've thought about it. But if we get caught, it's fraud. Prison time. Then we wait. But not too long, Derek. The people we owe aren't patient. The video ended. I sat in the dark, my heart pounding. Frank had heard them. He'd known exactly what his son was planning. And he'd died, knowing his own child was waiting for his death, like vultures circling carrion. The pain of it was almost unbearable. I barely slept that night. By morning, I'd convinced myself to give up. I'd pay Derek the $25,000, sign over the car, accept defeat. At least then I'd have peace, I reasoned. At least the nightmare would end. But when I opened my laptop to draft an email to Margaret telling her to negotiate a settlement, I noticed the USB drive still plugged in. There were more files I hadn't opened. Despite my exhaustion, something made me click on the next video. Frank's face filled the screen. He was sitting in our bedroom, late at night by the timestamp, 2 weeks before he died. His face was gaunt, skin stretched tight over bones, but his eyes were clear and focused. "Fern," he said to the camera, "if you're watching this, it means everything I feared has come to pass. Derek has tried to take what's ours. I'm so sorry, honey. I'm sorry I didn't see his true nature sooner. I'm sorry I'm not there to protect you." He paused, coughing. When he spoke again, his voice was weaker but determined. "I need you to listen carefully. I've put everything important in safety deposit box 412 at First National Bank. The key is taped inside the left rear wheel well of the Mustang. Get the car back, Fern. Trust Raymond at the dealership. He's a good man. I talked to him, explained everything. He'll help you." Frank leaned closer to the camera. "There's enough money in that box to fight Derek and win. More than enough. I've been moving cash little by little for months. Derek never noticed. And there's evidence, Fern. Documentation of everything he's stolen from us for the past 3 years. Forged checks, amounts, dates, all of it." My hands shook so badly I had to pause the video. Safety deposit box. Frank had hidden money and evidence somewhere Derek couldn't reach it. "I love you," Frank said on the screen. "I'm sorry I have to leave you, but I've done everything I can to make sure you'll be okay. Fight for what's ours, Fern. Don't let him win. Our son is lost, but you're still strong. You can do this." The video ended. I called Raymond immediately, not caring that it was 6 in the morning. "I need to get to the car. Right now, Mrs. Patterson?" His voice was thick with sleep. "What's wrong?" Frank left me a message. "There's a key hidden in the wheel well. I need it now." To his credit, Raymond didn't argue. "I'll meet you at the shop in 20 minutes. I threw on clothes, grabbed my purse, and drove too fast through empty streets. Dawn was just breaking, painting the sky pink and gold. Raymond was already there, unlocking the bay doors. The Mustang sat in the back corner. Together, we lifted it on the hydraulic rack. Raymond brought a flashlight, and I crawled underneath, running my hands along the inside of the left rear wheel well. My fingers found it. A small key, taped securely to the metal. I pulled it free, and something else came with it. A small notebook, wrapped in plastic, also taped inside the wheel well. We lowered the car. I sat in Raymond's office and opened the notebook. Frank's handwriting filled every page. Dates, amounts, check numbers. A meticulous record of Derek stealing from us for 3 years. Forged signatures on checks, unauthorized withdrawals, thousands of dollars, documented with the kind of careful detail only a lifelong accountant could provide. "Your husband was thorough," Raymond said quietly. The bank opened at 9. I was standing at the door when the manager unlocked it. First National was where Frank and I had banked for 40 years. Susan Chen, the branch manager, recognized me immediately. "Mrs. Patterson, how can I help you?" "I need access to safety deposit box 412. She checked her computer. "That box is under both your name and Frank's. I'll need your ID and the key." My hands shook as I handed over my driver's license. Susan led me to the vault, used her master key along with mine, and pulled out a long metal box. She carried it to a private viewing room. "Take all the time you need." The door closed. I lifted the lid. Money. Stacks of $100 bills bound with rubber bands. I counted quickly. $50,000 in cash. Frank had been slowly withdrawing it, hiding it where Derek couldn't find it. Beneath the cash were stock certificates. I didn't understand all the details, but the summary sheet showed they were worth approximately $70,000. Frank had liquidated some investments and put them in physical form, safe from electronic theft. There were manila folders, each labeled Derek Forgeries, Theft Documentation, Timeline. Frank had organized everything like he was building a legal case, because he had been, and at the bottom a handwritten document on legal paper, a new will, dated 1 month before Frank died. It was signed, witnessed by 2 people whose names I didn't recognize, probably from the hospital. The language was clear. Everything to me, and specifically disinheriting Derek for reasons of theft, elder abuse, and attempted fraud. I sat in that small room and cried. Frank had protected me. Even dying, even weak and in pain, he'd been working to save me from our own son. I gathered everything carefully, put it in the large purse I'd brought, and left the bank. Susan watched me go with curious eyes, but I didn't explain. Let her wonder. In my car, I called Margaret. I found it. Frank's evidence, and money for the legal bills. "Bring it to my office immediately." But as I pulled out of the parking lot, something made me look across the street. There was Courtney, standing beside her white SUV, phone pressed to her ear. She looked upset, gesturing angrily. Something about her posture made me slow down, roll down my windows slightly. Her voice carried in the quiet morning air. "I don't have it yet. Derek promised we'd have the money by now. Just give us 2 more weeks, please. If we don't pay you by the 15th, we'll lose the house. I know what you said, but threatening us doesn't help." I couldn't hear the voice on the other end, but it was clearly male, and Courtney's face had gone pale. "We're trying. His mother is being difficult, but Derek's working on it. We'll get the money, I swear." She hung up and stood there, face in her hands, shoulders shaking. For a moment I felt something like pity. Then I remembered her smirking at me, threatening to take away my grandchildren, and the pity evaporated. I drove to Margaret's office and showed her everything. She spread it across her conference table, examining each document with professional precision. "This changes everything," she finally said. "Frank's new will, properly witnessed, takes precedence. The theft documentation is damning. With the video evidence and this paper trail, Derek doesn't have a leg to stand on. So I can stop him? More than that. We can file criminal charges. This is elder abuse, theft, attempted fraud. Derek could face serious prison time. Prison. My son behind bars. The thought should have brought satisfaction, but instead I just felt hollow. That night, my house was broken into. I'd gone to the grocery store, just an hour away. When I came home, the back door lock was jimmied, and my filing cabinet had been pried open. Papers were scattered everywhere, drawers pulled out, the contents of my desk dumped on the floor. Nothing appeared stolen, but someone had been searching for something. The trust documents I'd left in the filing cabinet were gone. I called the police. The responding officer was young, maybe 25, and he took my statement with professional detachment. "Any idea who might have done this?" "My son. He's looking for legal documents." The officer's expression shifted. "Family disputes made cops uncomfortable. Do you have proof it was him?" "No. But who else would want papers from my filing cabinet and nothing else?" He wrote it down, took photos, gave me a case number. Margaret called it escalation. "This is getting dangerous, Fern. Derek is getting desperate." I changed my locks that night, but it didn't make me feel safer. My son knew where I lived. He had a key. Even new locks wouldn't keep out someone determined enough. I couldn't sleep, so I sat in Frank's workshop, surrounded by his tools. This had been his space, where he'd built things and fixed things and dreamed about restoring that beautiful car. I touched his workbench, running my fingers over the scarred wood, and something felt wrong. The bench was deeper than it should be. I knocked on the wood, hollow. My heart started racing. I pulled open the drawers, felt underneath. There was a catch, hidden in the back corner. When I pressed it, the bottom of the workbench popped up. Another envelope. This one marked "Emergency Only" in red ink. Inside was a letter explaining Frank had done his own investigation into Derek's financial troubles. The people Derek owed money to weren't banks or legitimate lenders. They were loan sharks, connected to organized crime. Frank had names, addresses, and a phone number for an FBI agent named Morris. The letter was dated 2 months before Frank died. He'd contacted the FBI anonymously, providing information about the loan sharking operation. He'd been trying to protect Derek, even after everything our son had done, trying to save him from himself. My hands shook as I dialed the number. It was 10 at night, but the call was answered after 3 rings. Agent Morris. "My name is Fern Patterson. My late husband, Frank Patterson, contacted you several months ago about loan sharks. I think my son is still involved with them." There was a pause. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm going to need you to come to our field office tomorrow. Can you do that?" "Yes. Bring everything your husband gave you." "This is important, Mrs. Patterson. Your husband's information has been part of an ongoing investigation. If your son is still connected to these people, you and your family could be in danger." I barely slept. The next morning, I drove to the FBI field office in Albany, 2 hours away. Agent Morris was a serious man in his 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I showed him everything. Frank's videos, the notebook, the evidence of Derek's debts. Morris watched and listened, making notes. "Your husband was brave," he finally said. "The organization he identified is part of a larger investigation we've been running for 18 months. We've been building a RICO case, but we needed more current information. If your son is still dealing with these people, and if we can document recent transactions, it could help us bring down the entire network." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you might be able to help us. But it would be dangerous, Mrs. Patterson. These are not good people." "What would I have to do?" Morris leaned forward. "We'd need you to offer your son money, publicly, in a way that would draw out the loan sharks. They'd be watching. We know they monitor their clients. If Derek leads us to them during an active transaction, we can arrest everyone involved. You want me to be bait?" "Essentially, yes. We'd have agents nearby. You'd be wearing a wire. But I won't lie to you. There are risks." I thought about Emma and Lily, my grandchildren, growing up with parents connected to criminals. I thought about Frank, spending his dying days trying to protect us all. I thought about Derek, lost and desperate and dangerous. "I'll do it." Margaret thought I was insane. "Fern, you're 67 years old. Let the FBI handle this without using you as bait. They need someone Derek trusts, someone who can get him to meet in person with the money. But these are dangerous people. What if something goes wrong? Then at least I'll have tried to protect my grandchildren." Agent Morris explained the plan. I would call Derek and offer him $40,000 in cash, enough to pay off his debt to the loan sharks. We'd meet at a public location, A parking lot near the Crossgates Mall, neutral territory. The FBI would have surveillance teams positioned around the area. I'd be wired, and they'd move in if anything went wrong. The key is getting Derek to contact the loan sharks, Morris explained. We need him to either bring them to the meeting or arrange a handoff afterward. We'll track everyone involved. It took me 2 days to work up the courage to call Derek. When he answered, his voice was suspicious. "What do you want, Mom?" "I want to end this. I'll give you $40,000. Cash. You drop the lawsuit, return the car, and we're done." Silence. Then, "Why would you suddenly agree to this?" "Because I'm tired, Derek. I'm tired of fighting my own son. I just want peace." I let my voice crack, which wasn't hard. "I miss my grandchildren. Please, let's end this." Another pause. 40,000? Yes. We meet tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, at the parking lot near Macy's at Crossgates. I'll bring the cash. You sign papers dropping the lawsuit. How do I know you're not setting me up? How would I set you up? I'm your mother. I'm giving you what you want. I could almost hear him thinking. He needed the money desperately, and 40,000 was probably more than the car was worth on a quick sale anyway. Okay, tomorrow at 6. But Mom, if you try anything, if you involve lawyers or cops, I swear you'll regret it. I know. I hung up before he could say anything else. Agent Morris arranged everything. Raymond, surprisingly, offered to come as backup. Frank was a good man. I won't let his widow face this alone. It's dangerous, I warned. I'm retired Special Forces, ma'am. I think I can handle some suburban criminals. I hadn't known that about Raymond. It explained the calm competence, the way he'd handled everything with such steady professionalism. The next evening, I withdrew 40,000 from my account. The bank manager looked concerned, but I assured her it was legitimate. Agent Morris fitted me with a wire so small and sophisticated I couldn't even feel it. 3 FBI surveillance vans would be positioned around the mall, a dozen agents. They made it sound safe, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Raymond met me at the parking lot early. He'd brought the Mustang, which he'd had minimally repaired after the vandalism. New tires, windows replaced, paint touched up. Frank would want the car here for this, Raymond said. At 5:55, Derek's truck pulled into the lot. He got out slowly, looking around. He was nervous. Good. He should be. "You came alone?" he asked. "Who would I bring?" I held up the envelope. 40,000. Count it if you want. Derek took the envelope, opened it, rifled through the bills. For just a moment, his expression softened. "Mom, I'm sorry. I know I've been difficult. It's just, things got so complicated. The business, the money problems. I never meant for it to go this far." And for one brief, fragile second, I saw my son again. Not the manipulator, not the thief, but the boy who'd helped his father rebuild a carburetor on a Saturday morning. Then Courtney's white SUV pulled up, and the moment shattered. "Derek, what are you doing?" Courtney's voice was sharp. "Don't fall for this. Take the money and let's go." Derek's face hardened again. He shoved the envelope in his jacket. "We're done, Mom. I'll drop the lawsuit tomorrow." But before they could leave, 2 more cars pulled into the lot. They moved fast, blocking Derek's truck and Courtney's SUV. 4 men got out. They looked exactly like what they were, dangerous. Derek Patterson? The biggest one spoke. He was maybe 40, built like he lifted weights for a living, with a scar running down his left cheek. Derek went pale. "Marcus, I was going to call you. I have the money." "Do you?" Marcus walked toward us. "Because we've been very patient. 4 months past due, Derek. My employers don't like waiting." I have it right here. Derek pulled out the envelope. 40,000. Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The interest is now 60,000. What? That's not what we agreed. Every month you're late, it goes up. That's how this works. Marcus's eyes shifted to me. You must be the mother, the one with the estate. My blood went cold. Derek stepped between us. Leave her alone. This is between you and me. Is it? Marcus gestured to his associates. Because from what you told us, she's got a lot more than 40,000. House, savings, life insurance. Sounds like you're holding out on us, Derek. I'll get you the rest. I just need more time. Time's up. Marcus pulled back his jacket slightly, showing a gun tucked in his waistband. Here's what's going to happen. Your mother is going to withdraw another 20,000 tomorrow. You're going to bring us the full 60 by Friday. Or we start taking things. Your house, your wife, your kids. Everything happened at once. FBI. Nobody move. Agent Morris and a dozen others appeared from everywhere, weapons drawn. The loan sharks tried to run, but they were surrounded in seconds. Derek and Courtney dropped to the ground, hands over their heads. I dove behind Raymond's truck, heart hammering. There was shouting. The loan sharks trying to resist. One of them pulled his gun and a shot fired. I screamed. But it was the FBI returning fire, and the loan shark went down, hit in the shoulder. Then it was over. Handcuffs clicking. Miranda rights being read. The parking lot filled with flashing lights. More FBI vehicles, police backup. Agent Morris helped me up. Are you okay, Mrs. Patterson? I couldn't speak, just nodded. The whole thing had lasted maybe 90 seconds, but it felt like hours. Derek was being led to a police car, hands cuffed behind his back. He looked at me, and his expression was shattered. Not angry, just broken. Mom, he called out. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I turned away. I couldn't look at him. Courtney was cooperative, telling the FBI everything. The loans, the threats, how Derek had gotten in over his head gambling and borrowed from the wrong people. She was crying, begging them to think about her children. Agent Morris let her go with instructions not to leave the state. She's a victim here as much as anyone, he told me. Derek manipulated her, too. Raymond drove me home in the Mustang. We didn't talk. There was nothing to say. My son was arrested for conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, theft, and a half-dozen federal charges related to the loan sharks. I sat in my dark living room until midnight, trying to understand how we'd gotten here, trying to pinpoint the exact moment Derek had chosen money over family, greed over love. I never found that moment. Maybe it had been gradual, a series of small choices that led to this catastrophic end. Or maybe I'd never really known my son at all. 3 months passed. Winter settled over upstate New York, covering everything in snow and silence. The federal trial happened faster than I expected. Derek pled guilty to avoid a longer sentence. The evidence was overwhelming. Frank's videos, the financial records, the FBI's surveillance footage, testimony from the loan sharks who cut deals to testify against Derek. I sat in the courtroom for the sentencing. Courtney was there too, sitting on the opposite side, not looking at me. She'd filed for divorce within a week of Derek's arrest. The judge was a stern woman in her 60s, named Harriet Kane. She reviewed the case with cold precision. Mr. Patterson, you attempted to defraud your dying father and your mother. You stole from them repeatedly. You threatened them. You associated with criminals and endangered your family. The court finds these actions reprehensible. Derek stood, head bowed, as she pronounced sentence. 6 years in federal prison. 6 years. My son would be 41 when he got out. Emma and Lily would be 10 years old. Derek looked back at me as the marshals led him away. His mouth moved. I think he said, "I'm sorry," but I couldn't be sure. Outside the courthouse, Courtney approached me. She looked thin, tired, older than her 32 years. "Mrs. Patterson, I know you have no reason to forgive me, but I want you to know I never wanted any of this. Derek lied to me. He manipulated me. I thought we were building a life together, and the whole time he was destroying everything." "I know," I said quietly. "The girls ask about him. They don't understand where Daddy went." She wiped her eyes. "And they ask about you. They miss their grandma." My heart clenched. "Can I see them?" "I think that would be good. For all of us." We started slowly. Supervised visits at first, Courtney bringing Emma and Lily to a park or a restaurant. The twins were cautious initially, remembering that Mommy and Daddy had been mad at Grandma. But children are resilient. Within a few weeks, they were climbing in my lap again, showing me their drawings, telling me about preschool. Courtney got a job as a teacher's aide at the elementary school. She found a small apartment, started building a new life. She'd been a victim too, I realized. Derek had controlled her with debt and fear and promises of wealth that never materialized. One Saturday, she asked if I wanted to take the girls for the whole afternoon. I brought them to my house, and we made cookies in the kitchen, where their grandfather used to sneak them extra chocolate chips. They laughed and got flour everywhere, and for a few hours, I felt peace. Raymond became an unexpected friend. He'd fully restored the Mustang, refusing to let me pay him. Frank's friendship was payment enough, he said. I'm just finishing what he started. The car looked perfect, better than perfect. Raymond had repaired the vandalism damage and added a few careful improvements. The engine purred like a dream. The community, learning the truth about what had happened, rallied around me. Linda Morrison apologized profusely, brought me casseroles, and invited me back to Bible study. Carol Henderson organized a meal train. My church family welcomed me back with open arms and guilty consciences. I donated $20,000 to Mercy Hospice in Frank's name, where he'd received such compassionate care in his final weeks. The director cried when she accepted the check. I also established the Frank Patterson Memorial Scholarship at the community college, $5,000 a year for a student studying automotive technology or mechanical engineering. Frank's passion would live on in young people, learning the trades he'd loved. The money Frank had hidden, combined with the stocks, gave me financial security. Margaret's legal bills were covered with plenty left over. I could live comfortably, help Courtney and the girls, and still have something to leave them when my time came. On a sunny morning in early spring, I drove the Mustang to the car show at the county fairgrounds. Raymond rode with me, and in the back seat, carefully buckled, were Emma and Lily. They giggled with excitement, bouncing in their seats. "Grandma, can we tell people about Grandpa?" Emma asked. "Of course, sweetheart." We parked in the classic car section, and people immediately gathered around. The Mustang drew admirers like moths to flame. Its cherry-red paint gleamed in the sunlight, chrome sparkling. "67 Mustang?" an older man asked. "Beautiful restoration. How long did it take?" 15 years, I said. My husband Frank did it all himself. Every weekend, working in our garage. He passed away 6 months ago. I'm sorry for your loss. But what a legacy he left. All day, people came to admire the car. I told them about Frank, about his patience and skill and dedication, about how he'd loved this machine, poured his heart into it, left it as a final gift to me. Emma and Lily helped, importantly informing everyone that our grandpa was the best fixer in the whole world. At sunset, I drove home with Raymond beside me, and my granddaughters singing in the back seat. The Mustang rumbled beneath us, powerful and alive. The wind through the open windows smelled like spring flowers and new beginnings. I thought about Frank, about how his love had protected me even after death, about how he'd seen what was coming and prepared for it, documenting everything, hiding evidence and money, creating a path for me to survive what our son had become. "We did it, Frank," I whispered. "We did it together." Raymond heard me and smiled. "He'd be proud of you, Fern." "I hope so." Justice hadn't been easy. It had been expensive and painful and had cost me my relationship with my son, at least for now. Maybe someday Derek would genuinely change, would become the man Frank and I had hoped he'd be. Or maybe not. I couldn't control that. What I could control was how I moved forward, with dignity, with strength, with the grace Frank had always seen in me, even when I couldn't see it in myself. They say time heals all wounds, but I don't think that's quite right. Time doesn't heal. It just teaches you to carry the pain differently. It's been a year now since Derek's sentencing. The Mustang sits in my garage every night, protected and cherished. On Sunday mornings, I take it for drives through the countryside, windows down, letting the engine sing the way Frank loved. Emma and Lily are 5 years old now. They come to my house every weekend. We bake, we read stories, we work in the garden Frank planted 20 years ago. They're starting to forget the bad times, remember only that Grandma's house smells like cookies and has a really cool car in the garage. Courtney finished her teaching certification. She's a second-grade teacher now, making an honest living, building a stable life for her daughters. We're not close, not exactly, but we're family. We show up for each other. That's enough. Derek writes letters from prison. Not often, but occasionally. They're filled with apologies and regrets and promises to do better. I respond sometimes. Short letters, careful words. I haven't forgiven him, not fully. Maybe I never will. But I haven't given up on him either. He's still my son, somewhere under all the bad choices and broken promises. Margaret tells me that's healthy. You're allowed to love someone and still hold them accountable, she says. Raymond and I have become genuine friends. He teaches me about cars, shows me how to change oil and check spark plugs. I bake him pies and listen to his stories about his time in the service. He never married, says he was too busy traveling the world. But he's not lonely. He has his shop, his classic cars, his community. The scholarship fund is thriving. 3 students received awards this year. One of them, a young woman named Jessie Ramirez, came to thank me personally. She's studying mechanical engineering, wants to design electric cars. Frank would have loved that, tradition meeting innovation. I think about Frank every day. The grief has softened into something gentler, memories that make me smile more than cry. The way he'd hum while he worked, how he always checked twice that the doors were locked before bed. His terrible jokes that made me roll my eyes and laugh at the same time. He knew what was coming, knew our son had lost his way. And instead of despairing, Frank had built me a lifeline. Documentation, money, evidence, a car that held all his secrets. He'd fought for me until his last breath. That's love. Not the romantic kind in movies. The real kind. The kind that anticipates your needs, protects your future, leaves you tools to survive even when they're gone. I volunteer at the hospice now, sitting with families going through what I experienced, holding hands, bringing comfort, sharing the wisdom that only grief can teach. That love endures, that we're stronger than we know, that sometimes the people who hurt us most are themselves hurting, lost in darkness they don't know how to escape. Last month, the FBI's case went to trial. The loan sharks and their organization were convicted on multiple federal charges. Agent Morris called to thank me for my cooperation. "Your husband started this," he said, "but you finished it. A lot of people are safer because of both of you." I hadn't thought about it that way, but he was right. Frank's investigation, my willingness to be bait, it had helped bring down criminals who'd been terrorizing people for years. There's power in standing up, in refusing to be a victim, in fighting back even when you're scared and alone and 67 years old. On the anniversary of Frank's death, I drove the Mustang to the cemetery. Raymond came with me, and Courtney, and the twins. We put flowers on Frank's grave, bright red roses that matched the car's paint. Emma looked up at me with Frank's blue eyes. "Grandma, is Grandpa proud of us?" I picked her up, held her close. "Yes, sweetheart, he's very proud. Even though Daddy did bad things?" The question cut deep. 5 years old, and already trying to understand betrayal and consequences and family loyalty. "Your daddy made mistakes," I said carefully. "Big ones. But that doesn't mean he's a bad person forever. People can change. People can learn. We hope he will. And Grandpa would still love him? Always. Just like I do. Just like I love you, no matter what." That's the lesson Frank taught me in his final gift. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean letting people hurt you. But it also doesn't mean abandoning hope that they might someday be better. I stood in that cemetery, surrounded by the people Frank and I had created and protected and loved, and I felt his presence. Not in any supernatural way. Just in the choices I'd made, the strength I'd found, the future I was building. The car was his voice, still speaking. The evidence was his shield, still protecting. The money was his provision, still supporting. And the love, that deep and abiding love, was still the foundation of everything. I'd been tested by grief, by betrayal, by fear, and I'd survived. More than survived. I'd fought back and won. Not just for me, for Frank's memory, for my granddaughter's future, for the principle that you don't get to abuse the people who love you and walk away unscathed. Derek will get out of prison in 5 more years. I don't know what happens then. Maybe he'll be changed. Maybe he'll have learned something. Maybe we can rebuild some kind of relationship, or maybe not. I've learned I can't control other people's choices. I can only control mine. And I choose to live with dignity, to honor Frank's memory, to love my granddaughters fiercely, to help other people facing the battles I've fought. The Mustang rumbles in my driveway right now, ready for tomorrow's drive. I'll take the girls to get ice cream, let them feel the wind in their hair, show them what freedom and power and beautiful machines feel like. Frank built that car for 15 years. Then he used it to save my life. That's not just restoration. That's love in its purest form. And I'll spend the rest of my days honoring that gift, living the life he fought so hard to protect, being the woman he always knew I was strong enough to be. Have you ever had to make an impossible choice between protecting yourself and protecting family? Have you experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, please consider hitting the like button and sharing it with someone who might need to hear that they're stronger than they know. Subscribe to hear more stories about resilience, courage, and the power of standing up for what's right. Thank you for listening to my journey. I hope it brings you comfort, strength, or maybe just the knowledge that you're not alone in your struggles. May you always have the courage to fight for what's right, and may you always be surrounded by love that endures.